Hey Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, Lance. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So just wanted to reintroduce Kelly. She is a friend of mine who also is a therapist. And I spoke to Kelly a couple weeks ago, and we spoke about the topic of the different stages of grieving. And we touched on in that conversation a topic of meaning, finding meaning, what it means to find meaning. And we realized that that's a conversation in and of itself that could warrant its own separate videos, own separate calls. So that's where we want to kind of take this and pick up from where we were before. So without further ado, welcome back to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit on that feeling of loss from last time, which is really something that no one is immune to right now, whether you're working or not. Life is different, and the way that we're going about life is different. And so there can be a sense of loss of the things that we used to be able to do. And the list is endless, right? And everybody's different in their list, but the list goes on, between social events or groups, or even your job is affected, right? Whether you're working or not. So I wanted to talk about how we can kind of cope with that loss. And I'm going to briefly talk about the stages of grief, and then we're going to talk more about the concept of meaning. Okay, does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right. All right. So just briefly, some people might be aware of this, some not, but the stages of grieving are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Okay. And then there's been a sixth one that was recently added, which is meaning, which is what we'll mostly talk about. But I just wanted to briefly cover the stages of grieving. So denial is where we're having trouble believing that this is the case, which we've all experienced, I'm sure. I can't believe that I'm now in quarantine for 7 weeks, right? And then anger. So adjusting to the new reality can cause some frustration and anger, right? And then bargaining. So that's a stage where we might have statements like, I promise to ... if this just ends. If you can just go back to normal, I promise that I'll do this thing that I was never doing before. And then depression. So it's like a pull inward with depression. And then acceptance is the fifth one, where we still feel the loss, but we're able to go with reality. We're not resisting the reality anymore. We're not saying, I can't believe this is happening. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. So those are the stages, and they're not done in any sort of order. You can be experiencing denial and then go to bargaining and then back to anger, or you can go through all the stages and then find yourself back in denial again. So that's something to think about for people when they're experiencing these things. They might have thought like, oh wow, last week was so great. Like, how come I'm doing so badly this week?
Yeah, so if somebody reverts back to one of the other phases, doesn't necessarily mean that that they're done with it. It just means they still need to deal with it a little bit.
Exactly. And this loss is it changes your life forever. So when you have a loss of a loved one, or a loss in the situation of a life that you had before, it's not that you ever really get over that. It's adjusting to this new life, this new normal, they call it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does it actually even mean to find meaning? Like, what does that term or concept even cover?
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to interpret that. So I picked one that I feel like is hopefully like fairly simple. And like I said, you can interpret it many different ways, but the way that I wanted to present it is to find a positive aspect in a difficult situation. So finding things in this difficult situation that make your experience matter. Okay. So it can actually lower the intensity of hard to manage emotions by finding meaning. And I'll give you some examples. So for myself, I've had more time to spend in my backyard, okay, which is something that I feel is a positive. And I'm trying new recipes. And another one that I wanted to convey is that I've been forced to look at life in a different lens, which can be difficult. but it also has made me more creative. So that's something that I'm finding that is positive in this difficult situation, which again, I might feel like I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want to have to think outside the box. Oh, this is so exhausting. But in the end, that's something that's positive that I feel through all of this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
for
that's
like in my personal life, I've found a couple things like I hate stuff. You know, I hate
yeah,
being burdened down by a lot of unnecessary personal belongings. I've been taking that time to get rid of all the clutter that's in my basement. And in
right,
my business, there's processes that I wanted to set up, and I've been taking the time to do all that stuff that I never had the chance to before.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So I'm sure people listening can find something that they feel like maybe they didn't want to. Like I said, maybe I wasn't looking for being more creative in these certain ways. I always like to be creative, but you're forced in the situation to kind of think outside the box and live life a little bit differently. Um, Something else that I just wanted to bring up too is that we talked about last time things that we have control over. Um, in this situation, and one of them was how we respond to our thoughts. So I just wanted to bring up again that there's space in between a stimulus and a response. So it's like a thought, that space in between, we have that choice to find meaning or to suffer. And sometimes the suffering's okay, you know, you just don't want to let it go too long. And when we can find meaning, like thinking about that, okay, well, this is going to make me more creative, or I'm going to now know how to make this new thing, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So would you say, because one of the things that I've focused on is not looking at the things that I can't do, or you can focus on all the stuff that's happening that you're not able to do anymore, but then you can also shift your focus to things that you can do instead, right? Was that?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I can imagine that there's some people out there that um, are struggling with the fact that there can actually even be any meaning, like to be found in the first place. So somebody might be asking, how can there even be any meaning in this? What
I
would you say to
totally,
somebody who's asking that question?
I would say I hear you. And I would say to just experiment and see how it goes. So when you notice that you're having a thought that this is never going to end and it's awful, try to find some positive aspect and just see how it feels. Just try it. Just see it like as a behavioral experiment and see how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then at least you gave it a try, and maybe come back to it again at another time. Sometimes people just aren't ready for that. Was that true too?
Absolutely. Yeah. So think like maybe you are in the denial stage. Maybe you just want to think like this isn't happening. I don't want to deal with it. I can't take it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then just to be kind to yourself, like we talked about last time, if you're having thoughts like that, be kind to yourself. Try to make yourself a cup of tea or allow that thought to kind of fester for a little bit, um, and let it ride out instead of saying like, oh, I should be ... I shouldn't be thinking like this. I should find meaning. Allowing yourself that time is really important. And that's how you would get to meaning, is allowing yourself to feel these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did dive into that, but the concept of becoming aware of your thoughts, and we did go into that a little deeper on the last call, so I don't know if we need to go into that. So anybody watching, check the last call we did 2 weeks ago, and really what it boiled down to was becoming mindful, and how you accomplish that through practices like daily meditation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So this is another practice, which is all of all of the things that have to do with our thoughts and our behaviors. It all is a practice. It is.
yeah,
Yeah. But there are some days where we can do that more than others.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
did give some examples. Any other examples that you can think
Mhm.
of that
Yeah.
might help people understand?
Yeah.
Um,
So some other ones that I thought of are more time with family, if that's something that you find valuable. Um, More time to cook, more more time to walk your pet or walk with a loved one. Yeah, yeah. Or to pet your cat, or The other thing to focus on is positive aspects in the future. So things that you're looking forward to doing can also help you to find meaning and to feel better, and decrease those intense emotions. So I can't wait to go to the beach, or I can't wait to meet with friends, or things that you're looking forward to in the future once this is over can help you to find meaning.
Yeah, almost get excited in a way. You know, I have
Mhm.
so many family and friends that I can't wait to see in
Right?
person.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
to be able to hug people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
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 So, is there anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't cover?
Um, well, I mean, we talked individually about Viktor Frankl, how amazing that book is, Man's Search for Meaning. And then the other one that I would recommend is David Kessler's book, which is Finding Meaning. And he talks about that meaning is the 6th stage. So he actually added a 6th stage to the 5 stages of grieving. And I listened to his podcast with Brene Brown, and he worked a lot with the woman who developed the 5 stages of grieving. And there was some pushback about a 6th one, but then eventually they did develop meaning as a 6th stage of grief to help to progress more outside of acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a professional in that field, but it makes sense to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
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 One
Anytime
of the
we can
things,
lower our suffering, right? I mean,
yeah, lowering suffering is so good.
yes, it does feel good.
Yeah. Well, I actually, since you mentioned the book, the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning, one of the things that I pulled out of there, I wrote it down. It was a very powerful 2 sentences, and I think at the end, I don't know if you read it or not, but in the end, somebody asked him after years and years of not being in the concentration camp, what his what is the meaning of life,
Hmm.
and his answer was, the meaning of life is to find life meaningful,
Yeah.
and that was very profound to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is to me too. Yeah. And I think that just like we said before, that there are times when you can get there and there are times when you can't. And there's some people too who have never even thought about this concept. So
Right.
yeah. So it's kind of like a journey or a path that you want to maybe explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I think that for the people who've not become aware of this topic, anybody who's watching and learning about it for the first time, this is incredible. And if there's anybody out there watching who's curious to find out more about it or find more about how you can help them in your services, what's the best way for them to find you?
So the best way to reach me is through my website, which is just kellymcglynn.com.
Perfect. All right, and I'll post a link to that so that everybody can get directly to it.
Fabulous.
And yeah, awesome. Well, this has been great, Kelly. Thanks for coming on again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lance.
You're welcome.
All right,
We'll
have a
talk to
great
you
day.
again. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.